So I will know if you can.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. You're
Yes,
welcome. Okay, I can see. I can
yes,
see the
I
chat. You can
salute
hear
you.
me loud and clear, and you
Absolutely.
can
Yeah,
see me.
that's right. Yes.
Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone to this awesome evening put together by the Happy People's Group, the HPEG group, and the Power Team. I want to welcome us specially for this auspicious evening. It's going to be a good one, and let's quickly do reminders to everyone we've invited. Let them know that our speaker is set and the floor is also well prepared. Tonight is going to be, a fantastic, a beautiful event. And what I can see on the screen is saying infertility, the global crisis and a threat to marriages. So our Professor Joseph Brian Adima, that's a prof, he is on board tonight, and he's the one that will be taking us in this beautiful topic this evening. From
I hope network will allow us talk.
and while we're doing that, it's also good for us to quickly put all our guests so that they will know we are live. Let them know we are live already. Okay, now Professor is speaking. He will tell us, where he is joining us from. I would like to read his profile before we will be able to, start the evening. And that's the citation of our professor, Professor Joseph Brian Adinma Ifeanyi. He will be taking us on this topic, the infertility, the global crisis. And I believe you will learn a lot this evening. It's also good for us to reach out to as many people as possible so that they can also benefit from this beautiful, beautiful topic before me. So Professor Joseph Ifeanyi Brian Adima was born an illustrious son of Neni in Anna Ocha local government area of Anambra South Eastern Nigeria. He had most of his primary education in the northern Nigeria and his secondary education at St. Teresa College in Nsukka, where he obtained his West African school certificate in 1972. And from there, he commenced, the higher school certificate course at the Dennis Memorial Grammar School in Onitsha, where he was able to he was admitted to read medicine at the University of Nigeria that same year, 1973. And he has his basic degree in medicine, from the University of Nigeria, 1979. And following his 1 year pre-registration housemanship at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, he proceeded for his National Youth Corps Service Program with the Nigerian Navy in Port Harcourt, and thereafter he started his residency training in obstetrics and gynecology at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in 1981, where he obtained, fellowship of the West African College of Surgeons in 1986, and he has worked as a locum consultant with Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital, Ihiala, and later as a resident consultant in the obstetrics and gynecologists at the Iyenu Mission Hospital, Ogidi. And he has gone further as a doctor and as a consultant, also a lecturer in obstetrician and gynecologist in that same field. And he has risen in the academic ladder, where he's been elevated to the rank of professor in the same field, obstetrics and gynecology, in 1995. And with the 5 years of initial employment as a lecturer, he remained a professor and honorable member of the Senate of Nnamdi Azikiwe University till date. Professor Adima has distinguished himself in academic leadership and have been in the editorial team of several learned journals, either as editor-in-chief or editorial consultant. He has supervised and directed students both at undergraduate and postgraduate level, and he has been also examiners of the West African College of Surgeons in the Faculty of Obstetrics and Gynecology. So he is well grounded in what he wants to teach us and take us tonight. He has led the accreditation team and participated in the postgraduate accreditation assessment for several teaching hospitals, even postgraduate training centers. He has been, offering his values in that field. And internationally, he has been contributing as well, notably the 17th FIGO World Congress, which was held in Santiago, Chile in 2003. He was very well represented. He had his presentation there. Even at the 22nd FIGO World Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecology, which was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 2018, he also participated. And Professor Adima has also accessed several academics for elevation to either reader or professor in the specialty of obstetrics gynecologists from several Nigerian universities. So he's currently a member of the board of the Association for the Advancement of Family Planning and also a member of the board of trustees of Society of Gynecology and Obstetrics of Nigeria, that's the SOGON, and has been a member of the board of National Hospital, Abuja, interim chairman of the governing council of the College of Health Technology, Obosi, Anambra State, and has at one time or the other been in the membership of other boards, including National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and that of Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital as a member of key committees. And even in his state, the Anambra State, he also has great establishment for the new state university as a think tank committee for the Nigerian National Development Think Tank Committee on the community development of the Neni town, and a 13-man committee on the resolution of leadership crisis in Neni town, and chairman Neni Commission of Igwe election. He's very involved in Women's Health and Youth Development Initiative, which is a non-governmental organization that promotes and protects and uplifts women reproductive health and right as well. And our professor, has been held the FIGO focal point man for Nigeria on women's sexual and reproductive rights. And in 2015, he was appointed by the president of the FIGO to serve as the African regional ambassador for the FIGO Adolescent Preconception and Maternal Nutrition Initiative, which was inaugurated at the 21st FIGO World Congress of the Obstetrics and Gynecology of Vancouver in Canada. It is vast, very well vast, and has contributed in this area extensively. And he holds also as well in his own territory the traditional title of the Igiligi. I hope I got it, sir.
Igirigi, igirigi.
Igiligi,
Yeah.
Igiligi Udo Amici, that was bestowed on him by the traditional ruler of Amici, Nigeria, in recognition of his selfless service to humanity and women's health in particular. He was also in 2019 bestowed with the traditional title of Obata, Odelu, Abagana, shortly after he had taken the prestigious and highest traditional title at his hometown, Neni, the prestigious Ozo Ezeani title, and taking four traditional appellation attached to the title. So Professor is a patron of many associations, including All Saints Catholic Church Choir, Nkwo. He completed the 2 times tenure as first vice chairman of the Parish Council of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church, Neni. And he has worked as consultant, um, as a commissioner of health, honorable commissioner of health in the government of Anambra State in southeastern Nigeria from 2003 to 2006. And during his tenure, Professor Adimma won an award as one of the 5 most outstanding health commissioners throughout the Federation. He's extensively with the United Nations Children's Fund, the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, Planned Parenthood, Global Parenthood Federation of America, Partnership for Transformation of Health Systems, that's the Part 2, IPAS, Society for Family Health, SFH. So he is our amazing professor that will be taking us this evening. He has published extensively in the in learned peer-reviewed journals for literally all the continents of the world. Wow. Altogether, he has a total of approximately 125 published works, including several others at various stages of assessment for publication. He has also made no fewer than 100 presentations at both local and international conferences. So tonight, Professor Adimma is here with us. He is married, a professor, is married to also a professor, Eche Adimma. Awesome. Also in the Department of Community Medicine of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And between them, they have 5 children, all doctors, almost all doctors, Dr. Zikora, Dr. Neoma, Mr. Munachizo, Barrister Lotafechi, and lots of grandchildren. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you for paying attention. We just had to do the due diligence to let Professor know we also appreciate him for this vast contribution he has done, to our nation and the world at large. And tonight, in no other person, we have our our Professor Joseph Ifeanyi Brian D. Adimma in the house to take us on the topic we have before us, infertility, a global crisis. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much. We don't want to take too much of our time anymore. You just have to, please help me shower him with so much emojis. Let him know he's so welcome here. Welcome, Prof. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very, very much. That was a very elaborate rendering my citation. I want to thank you immensely. In fact, my head is busting already.
We are happy to read it out, sir. We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes,
I think it's even very thoughtful of you to be to have selected this topic. I think it's a very important topic because
yes,
if we look at our situation in Africa, infertility is even more a challenge than it is amongst the Caucasians and other regions of the world. So I'm glad that once more to look at this very important global public health challenge. which we call infertility and infertility crisis, and the threat that accompanies it, threat to marriage, particularly in young people and even in older people. So thank you very much for um, being part of this audience, the very distinguished Happy People group, of which I have great privilege to speak to this evening. I hope that one or two things that I'm going to say to you will eventually be of immense benefit to not just those of us who are here, but to people who are our friends and relations that are not privileged to be part of this meeting. Well, like I said earlier, it is very thoughtful of you to once more want to listen to this very important topic, because we know, as a form of introduction, that infertility is a global challenge with global uh, infertility prevalence of 17.5%. In fact, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, in a 2023 report, has reported that 1 in every 6 couples have infertility problem. 1 in every 6 couples. That is outrageously high. It's also reported in several studies. We have the study by Maya between 1990 and 2010. There was an increase in prevalence of infertility from 42 million or thereabout to almost 48 million. And studies that had been previously carried out in a systematic review that had gone on. There is there's the French study. Before the French study, there was the study that had evaluated male infertility, and it has been found out that there is drop in the sperm count of men. The average sperm count in 1950, for instance, was 100 million per male, but by 1990, 40 years later, it had dropped to 50 million per male. And the French study has reported that there is 2% annual drop in sperm count the world over. These are very worrisome situations. And so infertility is really more pronounced in the males, as it were. So the contribution of male to infertility is increasing. And in Africa, the situation is even worse, just like as it is in Southeast Asia. Then coming to Nigeria, we have reported infertility rate of 10 to 30%. And notable, there are certain characteristics that are peculiar to Nigeria. But before I bring in these peculiar characteristics of infertility in Nigeria, there are certain factors that have been reported that are universally responsible for causing infertility globally. The first is the environment, the environmental factors. You know, the global warming has brought about increase in temperature that are affecting the production of sperm from the testis. So global warming, environmental factor is a problem. They have chemical factor, the presence of certain contraceptives that have found its way into water, consumed by fish, which we also consume, and which in turn somehow affect our fertility potentials. In addition to that, there is the environmental pollutants from heavy metals, notably cadmium, lead, mercury. Cadmium are pollutants that are from industries, so they're a result of industrial pollution, and they've been known to affect the production of egg and the production of sperm. So these are the role of chemicals. Apart from the chemicals also, we have issues concerning drugs. Certain drugs affect uh, the production of sperm and the production of eggs from the ovaries. Then there's this modern day habits, modern day activities that also affect fertility to some extent. Um, Cell phones all have an impact that we may not immediately quantify. In addition to the issue of people having to go to school, means that people marry much later than they used to previously. The result is that, as age progresses, there is a tendency for infertility um, to come up. Now, let us now specifically talk about Nigeria. Nigeria is a very important country in Africa. There is one peculiarity of infertility. There's a statement that I have gotten used to and find fascinating. There's the statement that Europeans fall in love and get married, following which they may have children. But the Africans get married to have children, following which they may fall in love. This is a well-loaded statement that speaks to the fact that we attach a lot of premium to having children. Now, the infertility situation in Nigeria, like I said earlier, is the prevalence is between 10 and 30%. The infertility in Nigeria is characterized by a lot of problems related to infection. That is why you usually have in the females, secondary infertility is usually more prevalent due to infections, puerperal sepsis, post-abortal infections, and sexually transmitted infections. They tend to damage the fallopian tubes and lead to infertility, secondary infertility. So secondary infertility is more common. But what is even more specific to infertility in our environment is the amount of psychosocial problems psychosocial issues that accompany infertility. Psychosocial issues that are related to stigma, related to gender-based violence, that these are some of the repercussions of infertility. There's gender-based violence, there is marital disharmony, there is even a tendency to divorce. So no couple ever wants to be confronted with this problem of infertility. So we're always mindful of this, and that is why it is said that the woman, of course, who is the main person that is battered and traumatized in situations of infertility, albeit ignorantly, as it were, can go to any length to achieve a pregnancy. So that is why I keep saying that this particular topic that we are discussing is very, very important. Now, having said this, I think we should take up some definitions. When we say fecundity is the ability of a couple to achieve reproduction, to reproduce. You have sterility is the absolute inability to reproduce, to have children, or to achieve a pregnancy. Because fertility is the ability of a couple to achieve pregnancy. Then infertility, which is the main kernel, the main thing we're talking about, is the inability of a couple desirous of achieving a pregnancy to do so following 1 year of regular unprotected sexual intercourse. So when this inability to achieve pregnancy is occurring for the first time, it is called primary infertility. When it is occurring following a previous pregnancy or previous deliveries, then we call it secondary infertility. But World Health Organization had in addition recognized two other varieties of infertility, the one that we call subfertility, which is more or less reduced fertility, the prolonged period of unwanted inability to conceive. We call it substerility. I'm sure you will have experienced certain people who, in spite of various investigations, one cannot come up with any pregnancy, any reason for not achieving a pregnancy. Then after about interval of 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, another pregnancy comes. So those are the group that we call subfertility, subfertile group. Then of course, there's the other group that is classified as pregnancy wastage, in a situation where a couple does not have any living child. Maybe due to recurrent miscarriages, or even beyond miscarriage, there are pregnancy losses, and that means they don't have any issues. So strictly speaking, it's not as if there is infertility, but they are not able to have a life born, as it were. So these are the broad classification of infertility. So you have primary infertility, secondary infertility, subfertility, and pregnancy wastage. Now let us come to factors that predispose to infertility. Timing is very important, a very important factor, because for pregnancy to be achieved, sexual intercourse should be timed to correspond to the period that is described as the fertile period, between the 8th and 18th day of the cycle. And it should be regular within this period at 2 to 3 times, at least 3 times in a week. So timing of sexual intercourse is a very important predisposing factor. We also have the factor of weight. Obesity is a predisposing factor to infertility. The same way as undernutrition is. Obesity is where you have body mass index of 30 kilograms per meter squared and above, while undernutrition is body mass index of 19 kilograms per meter squared or below. So that what it means, therefore, is that for one to achieve pregnancy, one must have an optimal weight. Related to this is also nutrition. Good nutrition goes with the probability of achieving a pregnancy. And that is where the happy people will come on, because I know that one of the major things that they happen is good nutrition. Now, what is good nutrition? Good nutrition is what we call prudent diet. Diet that is balanced with vegetables, meat, fish, egg, fruits, and just moderate carbohydrate to give you the calories that you require. Not the bad type of diet. The bad type of diet is the Western type diet, which is diet of French fries, diet of sweet drinks, shawarma, pizza. These are Western type diet that is not supposed to be compatible with achieving pregnancy. Then the other predisposing factors that we can think about is we talk about consumption of alcohol, smoking. Then we also talk about the kind of attire, wearing of tight nylon pants can all reduce the predisposition to achieving a pregnancy. Then, of course, drug use, inappropriate drug use, use of habit-forming drugs and across-the-counter drugs um, that are injurious to the reproductive system. Things like cough syrup with codeine. They will also talk about sexually transmitted infection. This can predispose to infertility. Then the occupation, long distance driving, long distance driver, because for sitting over a long period of time driving, the temperature is not clement to the production of sperm, to spermatogenesis. And so the men tend to have a lower the sperm count. So these are some of the predisposing factors. And there are also certain things that if we do, we're more likely to be healthy enough to be able to um, increase our fertility. Good exercises. Of course, we've talked about eating good food and all that. So we avoid all those habits that can predispose to infertility. Now, what are the causes of infertility? Infertility, you have male factor infertility, you have female factor infertility, you have combined infertility, combined causes, and then you have what we call unknown factors. Now, ordinarily in general, it is believed that 30% of infertility is due to the male, but studies that were carried out showed that male infertility occurred in 35.2% of cases of infertility. Female infertility generally accounts for 30% female causes. Our study showed 24.9%. Then combined male and female, again, another 30%. Our study here is showing 21.3%. And then the unknown causes, that is where you cannot lay your hands on anything that you can say is the cause of infertility, is responsible for 10% generally. But in our studies, we found it to be responsible for as high as 18%. Now, if we take male causes of infertility, you have to take along the anatomical structure of the male organ. First of all, the effect of hormones. There are certain hormones that can affect the production of sperm. For instance, the hormone we call prolactin, it can reduce the sperm production. Then, of course, there are certain things that can affect the testis, which is a factory where sperm is produced. People that have had mumps can cause orchitis. Orchitis, that is inflammation of the testicles, and can burn out the testicular cells that produce sperm. So mumps orchitis can be damaging enough to cause atrophy of the testicles and lead to infertility. There can also be excessive proliferation of the vessels that surround the testis, a situation that we call varicocele. Varicocele can lead to reduced sperm production. Then moving along, the outflow tract of semen, we have what we call the epididymis and the vas deferens. For one reason or the other, this tract can be blocked, it can be occluded. For instance, serious infection can block or occlude this so that the sperm that is being produced cannot be transported to the penis prior to being injected into the female. So when there is a block of the epididymis and the vas deferens, there can be problem with male infertility. Then, of course, there are structural abnormalities. There are situations where the opening of the urethra, instead of being at the normal tip of the penis where it's supposed to be, the opening can occur at the dorsal part of the penis. That is to say, at the flat shaft of the penis, or it can occur under. If it occurs at the top, it is called epispadias. If it occurs under, it is called hypospadias. And you can imagine when this opening is not at the correct place, it will be very difficult to be able to introduce the sperm into the woman. So this is part of what can also cause infertility. Okay, in addition, there are some psychosexual issues. When there is reduced libido, that is when there is loss of sexual appetite, when there is erectile dysfunction, these are some of the things that can also cause male infertility. Then when we talk about female infertility, we also look at all the structures that constitute the female reproductive tract. Looking at the female reproductive tract is controlled from the higher centers of the brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary axis, and then up to the ovary. So when there are hormonal imbalance, it may affect the production of eggs from the ovary. Then there are situations when some hormones like prolactin, just like in the male, is high, it can also affect the production of eggs from the ovary. Then we look at the fallopian tubes, because when the egg is released at the ovary, it moves into the fallopian tube. Now, if the fallopian tube is blocked, it will be impossible for the sperm coming from the vagina into the uterus to be able to get to the egg that is coming from the ovary. So infertility will be the cause, will be the result. In addition, there can be situations where the lining of the womb, the uterus, is not good enough to harbor a pregnancy. Situation that will have chronic endometritis, or where there are some problems, some tumors like uterine fibroids or polyps in the lining of the womb called the endometrium. It might prevent pregnancy from sitting in there and growing to become a baby, to achieve a pregnancy. Also, within the structure of the womb itself, the cervix can have serious problems that we call incompetence, cervical incompetence, and this may prevent a pregnancy from staying put up to the end of the pregnancy. Even the neck of the womb, the opening of the neck of the womb, which we call the cervix, can have what we call cervical erosion. Cervical erosion may produce hostility to spermatozoa, so that the sperm will find it difficult to get through into the uterus to go to fertilize the ovum or the egg in the tubes, in the fallopian tubes. So these are what some of the factors that are responsible for female infertility. Then, of course, like we said, generally, 30% of causes of infertility is due to combined male and female factor. Then we have the one that we call unknown factors, which we say is about 10% or 18% from our studies. The unknown factor is really, it may be related to inappropriate timing of intercourse. I know of a couple, one partner is living in Lagos, the other is living in Abuja. Now, they can only come, in fact, the man visits the wife only once in a month at the time he perceives ovulation would occur. Now, ignorantly, that man had felt that ovulation occurs immediately after the menstrual period. And that is when he comes to visit the wife. And you know, this is not really what it is most of the time. So there is that ignorance and the act that has been ignorantly practiced over several months and years. That is one of the things that we group as unknown factor. So most things that are grouped under unknown factor, usually when you make a closer interrogation and closer investigation, you may elicit that factor. So now Having described the causes of male infertility, female infertility, and then combined, and then unknown factor. How do we manage infertility? Now, management of infertility is very important. First and foremost, we must know that infertility is a joint issue. It is issue that can involve, that can be due to the male factor or can be due to the female factor. That means, therefore, that investigation has to be jointly performed for the couple. It's not a question of saying, woman, you are not fertile, go and see the doctor. No, everybody, the male and the female, have to come to see the doctor. What does the doctor do? The doctor will take a detailed history from both the woman and from the man. Detailed history to try to see whether it can elicit any of these factors that we had mentioned before. After taking a good history from each of the partners, the doctor will do good physical examination. Because if you do good physical examination, you may be able to identify, the doctor may be able to identify the probable cause of infertility. Now, after good history and good physical examination, what next to do is to do some investigations. Now, investigations for the male and the female should run concurrently. That is to say, it has to be done simultaneously. You don't say, oh, when the woman has finished, then I start investigating the man and vice versa. No, it has to run concurrently. And we have identified 3 basic investigations that must be the first line investigation for the infertile couple. And we think that in 90% of cases, one will be able to identify the cause of infertility when these 3 investigations are done. And these investigations take cognizance of the process between the release of egg and the intromission of the sperm and the fertilization. You know, every month, at least once every month, the egg is released. The egg goes into the fallopian tube. Now, the man meets the wife, injects sperm, introduces sperm through her vagina into the uterus. The sperm travels through the whole length of the uterus, gets into the fallopian tube where fertilization occurs. So fertilization actually occurs in the fallopian tube. The fertilized egg, which is now called the zygote, now travels down to the uterus and attaches and begins to grow, and that is pregnancy. So when a couple is not achieving pregnancy, the first question to ask is she ovulating? So one of those 3 major investigations that I talked about is ovulatory function tests. There are tests that we can do to see whether the woman is ovulating. It can be follicular tracking, it can be 21-day progesterone, but there are tests that can be done to show whether, to see whether the woman is ovulating. Now, the second test is tubal function test. That is to say, we want to find out whether the fallopian tubes are blocked or whether they are open. Then, of course, the third test is looking at the sperm being produced from the man. We call it semen analysis. That is male function test. By the time you carry out these 3 investigations, believe me, in 90% of cases, one will be able to identify the probable cause of the infertility. It is only when these investigations are not able to give you the cause that you go for higher investigations, because really there are higher investigations that can be done. But we usually start with these 3. And like I said, in 90% of cases, we must identify the cause of infertility from these 3. Now, having identified the cause, the next thing is treatment. How do we treat infertility? Like I said, investigation, evaluation of infertility runs concurrently between the male and the female. And that means, therefore, any treatment that is being given will take into cognizance in the male and what has been found in the female. Now, if we take male infertility. Now, if we think that there is high level of prolactin, which you can get from hormonal cell of the man, it can be treated with drug called bromocriptine to bring down the prolactin, because when prolactin level is high, it affects the production of sperm. So bring it down by giving appropriate drug. There are times when a man has low sperm count from the semen analysis that is done. There are times you may give empirical treatment using some anti-estrogen drugs like clomiphene citrate, or some drugs like tamoxifen to cause increased production of sperm. Now, if you, from your examination, if one found out that there is increase in amount of vessels surrounding the testis, the situation that we call varicocele, the man might need varicocelectomy. That is surgery to reduce the amount of blood vessels around the testis. And then that will make the sperm count to rise, and conception will be achieved. Now, there are situations where you do a semen analysis and you don't find any sperm at all. Most of the time, you find low sperm count that in the past we used to say sperm count that is less than 20 million constitutes what we call oligospermia, or low sperm count. But now we consider as low as 10 to be normal. There are some people who have sperm count of up to 100 million. That will now begin to make you appreciate when we say 10 million. 10 million is the benchmark for normal. But having said that, also, we also know that assisted reproductive technology has made it possible for you to use even one sperm to achieve a conception through artificial methods. We'll talk about that later. Now, so varicocelectomy surgery you can perform to reduce the amount of vessels surrounding the testis so that the temperature will come down and the sperm production will improve. Now, what about a situation where the testis has been burnt out and has become atrophic by virtue of, say, the man had orchitis, mumps, so the testis is not functional. There is no sperm. What do? This is a situation where you can use artificial insemination, using donor sperm. You can use donor sperm to fertilize the egg from the woman using a test tube, which we call in vitro fertilization, using the method that we call ICSI. ICSI means intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Get the donated sperm, then inject it into the cytoplasm of the egg, and fertilization occurs. Then the fertilized egg is allowed to germinate into a number of cells before it is implanted into the uterus. The injection of the sperm may also be done on what area of the egg that we call zona pellucida, which we call subzonal injection of sperm, or SUSI. So that can be done when the sperm flow tract is obstructed. Surgery can also be performed by a urologist, whereby they will cut off the area that is blocked and join the area that is not blocked, what we call vasovasostomy or vasoepididymostomy. These are specialized surgery that can be performed by a urologist. Now, leaving that, there are situations that we call retrograde ejaculation. Retrograde ejaculation means that during ejaculation, instead of going forward for the sperm to come out through the opening of the urethra, it is ejaculated backwards and even goes into the bladder. So retrograde ejaculation can be treated also by artificial insemination, but this time using the husband's sperm. You can harvest the husband's sperm from the bladder, urinary bladder, then use it to do in vitro fertilization or assisted reproduction. So AIH, that is artificial insemination using husband semen. Otherwise, you can give some drugs that can treat retrograde ejaculation, like alpha, those we call alpha adrenergic drugs can be used for that purpose. Now, in situations where there is problem regarding the opening of the urethra, when it is not well positioned, of course, reconstructive surgery can be performed also by the urologist. Otherwise, the sperm can also be harvested and then artificial insemination carried out. Then where there is fertility can really be treated if we painstakingly find the cause of the infertility. Now, let us look at female infertility. The woman is not ovulating. Why is the woman not ovulating? We find the cause. If we are not able to find anything, we can give, again, empirical treatment using the anti-estrogen drug that we call clomiphene citrate, which stimulates the production of egg from the ovary. And it can be juggled with some drugs, some hormones like human chorionic gonadotrophin, and it will bring about ovulation. Sometimes multiple ovulation. That is why if you use clomiphene citrate, you can have multiple ovulation, and that is some of these people that you see that are having triplets, quadruplets. Some of them are due to drugs that were given, maybe to try to see whether she will start ovulating. Then if there is high level of hormone called prolactin, one can also give bromocriptine like we did in the male. Again, then if the tubes are blocked, what do? You can do tubal surgery. That is to say, cut off the area that is blocked and join the area that is normal. Now, tubal surgery usually is a microsurgical thing, takes a very long time, and the success rate is not too high. At the best, it can be just about 20%. But in this era of in vitro fertilization, a lot of people want to go for IVF and embryo transfer. Then, if the problem is with the uterus, if there is uterine fibroid, usually we suggest that the fibroid be removed for pregnancy to be achieved. If there is chronic endometritis, it can also be treated. Chronic endometritis, most of the time, is due to infection. Infection can have non-specific infection, which is due to bacteria or other organisms, or it can have specific infection that is tuberculosis. I have had a case of tuberculosis of the endometrium, and the woman had to be treated with anti-tuberculosis drugs. Now, if there are problems related to cervical incompetence, it should be treated doing what we call cervical sacrilege operation. And if there's a problem related to erosion, cervical erosion, it can also be treated by cauterization. So in effect, we've been able to now describe the probable things we can do when we have carried out the investigations. If we find problem in the male, the various things we can do, and if we find problem in the female, the various things we can do. And most of the time, when the doctor is patient and the patients are patient, that is, the clients are patient, success usually crowns whatever efforts that have been put in place into the management of infertility. Now, having said this, it is important that we also talk about further forms of achieving pregnancy. You see, the concept, global concept now is that no couple should be left infertile. No couple. It is the right of every couple to achieve a pregnancy. So there are certain further treatments that go beyond what I have described. I have talked about assisted reproduction technology, where I have in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer. Now, in vitro fertilization goes in various forms. The important thing is that the egg is harvested. It could be a donor egg. If there's a problem, the egg can be is harvested. Then the male sperm can be extracted and used to fertilize the egg outside. That's why it's in vitro, maybe in a test tube or any medium. And then it matures to a number of cells. Then it is now transported back into the uterus. Well, I have not talked about how the sperm can even be extracted in the male, because as I said, some of these assisted reproduction, you need only one sperm. So it can be gotten through aspiration from the testis, what we call testicular sperm aspiration, TESA. It can also be gotten through a microsurgical sperm aspiration, or what we call percutaneous sperm aspiration, PESA. So PESA, MESA, TESA are forms of ways of obtaining sperm for in vitro fertilization, and then followed by embryo transfer. Now, in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer. There is that situation that we call surrogacy. Surrogacy is a situation where a couple uh, uh, gets somebody else to carry the pregnancy. It's like renting a pregnancy. That's why it is also called womb renting or womb leasing. You can lease a womb or rent a womb. Surrogacy is allowed. It's one of the ways that people can achieve um, having children of their own. Then, of course, adoption is a legal situation where a situation where one can have a child from another source other than the couple. That is adoption, and it is allowed legally. The adopted child has all the privileges of a child that has not been adopted. So these are the three further things that can be done to ensure that everybody who desires have pregnancy: in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer, surrogacy, and adoption. And then, having said this, we go to what we call infertility crisis. Infertility crisis is one of the new things that have come up, and it is born out of the fact that infertility goes with a lot of problems that are psychological and physical. So physical, psychological, emotional crisis that may result, but may cause harm or injury to either of the couple, or both couples, or both partners in a couple, or even their offspring, and may even affect the society and the community at large. You take a scenario, for instance, where a couple, either the woman or the man, has suffered a lot of stigmatization, gender-based violence, marital disharmony, simply because there is no child. Then let's take a scenario: the man now has IVF performed. Perhaps the sperm used for the IVF is from a donor sperm. That man is psychologically traumatized, having that feeling that this sperm is not from him. The gene, the genetic input into that child is not from him. Sometimes even the egg for the IVF is a donated egg. So you can imagine a situation where there is donated sperm, there is donated egg, and the woman is carrying a pregnancy that is not of her genetic makeup. Neither is it of the genetic makeup of the husband. Psychologically, both of them are worn out. And you can see that can inadvertently be even transmitted to the offspring that is born. and there is a chain of emotional trauma. And perhaps some people in the society will also know that this situation has happened, and they and they are further even traumatized when there are people gossiping on all these things. It is the sum total of what happens in the man that constitutes what we call uh, um, infertility crisis. So the infertility crisis is more prevalent in the male because, like I said earlier, male infertility is even more on the increase compared to female infertility. So infertility crisis, and it has a lot of emotional problems associated with it. And people have tried to investigate, to try to interrogate how people who have this infertility crisis, what they go through using research and clinical observations. And a gentleman called Manning has been able to use what we call the grief and loss model to try to um, uh, interrogate or describe what happens during infertility crisis. What is the first reaction of an infertile couple? The first reaction is surprise or shock. You can imagine two people who have wedded and are looking forward for pregnancy to a pregnancy, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The feeling is tremendous. The feeling is shock and surprise. Why me? What have I done? You begin to, oh, I have lived a good life. I have not been doing this. I've not been doing that. I've stayed on my own. And so why shouldn't I have a pregnancy? And so you begin to ask yourself questions, and one begins to modify certain habits. Okay, maybe I don't eat this. People will tell you eat this and eat that. Okay, maybe I don't practice a particular style of sexual intercourse. Or maybe I do this, I don't do enough exercise. So people will come up with all sorts of suggestions. But the important thing is that there is shock, there is surprise. Then following surprise is denial. No, no, it cannot be. You deny. No, denial will come in. Then from denial, you now get to anger. Somebody is angry. Why should it be? You are angry with God. You are angry with your partner. You are angry at your workplace. She is nagging. So anger. And as the infertility crisis deepens, you get to the stage of bargaining. Okay, now that the situation is like this, uh, can we marry another person so as to give you a baby? That is the woman telling the husband now. So bargaining, negotiating for possible things that can be done to make everybody happy. Then from bargaining, the next stage is acceptance. Resignation to fate. We accept the situation. And this is the first phase of, the infertility crisis. Then goes into the second stage, which is the stage of depression. People with infertility crisis who have done everything that they think they could do, spent everything they have, and yet no pregnancy is coming, to go into depression. Depression are of two types. You can have the cyclical type of depression, then the acute type of depression. The cyclical type of depression comes every time the period is about to come again. Depression will come. Or if there's treatment that is being rendered, at the time this treatment is coming to come up, depression will occur. But the acute type of depression comes when there is a news that maybe a sibling, maybe a younger sister has just delivered, or a neighbor has just delivered. And maybe this person just got married 6 months ago. And here you are, 4 years, 5 years, you have not achieved a pregnancy, talk not of delivery. So the depression deepens to the extent of chronic depression. And it affects the individual in several ways. It affects the individual emotionally, it affects individuals at work, and they go into the next stage, which is loss. They feel at a loss. There's they lose self-esteem. There's loss of self-esteem. There's loss of relationship. There's loss of finances. There is there is literally loss of everything. You start wondering, that means I am unfulfilled. They feel incomplete. They feel that they have failed. Failure. That is, these are some of the range of things that can happen accompanying infertility crisis. Now, every good doctor managing infertility should also be knowledgeable as to what to do in situation of infertility crisis, because there is need for well-articulated management. Now, the management of infertility crisis are of two dimensions. The first dimension refers to the practitioners. Practitioners should know that infertility crisis assumes various dimensions and varies between people, between couples. So there is need to carry out research to elicit what are those things that play out in infertility crisis, and what are the things that can be done to manage this infertility crisis. So there is need for the health practitioners to be able to carry out constant research, to carry out this evaluation, to discover what to do in order to manage such people. And then the little you can do as a medical practitioner, what research can you also carry out in terms of what kind of nutrition that you should advise those couples to take, in terms of, are there environmental issues that may be playing out in this uh, infertile couple that is leading to infertility crisis. So research and action into environmental factors, into chemical pollutants, into nutrition. Like we said earlier, prudent diet is very, very important. People must be taught to eat not bad diet, but prudent diet, diet that is rich in vegetables, in fruits, milk, eggs, pulses, and in particular, the antioxidants, nuts, um, uh, those natural products that are likely to have antioxidant properties, including the ones that lead to production of omega-3 that helps in the production of sperm. And this brings me to one of the nutritional supplements that I know that the Happy People group should be conversant with. The Forever, uh, the Forever Aloe Vera Gel. The Forever Aloe Vera Gel is a very, very good natural nutrition enhancing, nutrient enhancing product that everybody should be able to take. It boosts the immune system, it cleanses the system, and allows those nutrients, the nutrition that the patient or the client is taking, to be able to operate effectively, to be able to improve the fertility of the couple, both male and female. So it's one of the products that we are recommending, and I believe the people on Forever Living Products will market this better, and everybody who happens to be listening to this lecture should be able to have something to do and to know how to obtain the Forever Aloe Vera Gel. You see, the antioxidant properties, what it does, it mops up a lot of the free radicals. Free radicals are dangerous toxic substances in the blood. Cleanses up all these free radicals and allows natural things to happen, and everything in your body system will now be functioning optimally. You should be able to know, to focus, the focus of the management. You have done your little bit in terms of what nutritional products you are prescribing. You focus on coping mechanisms. There are certain coping mechanisms that you focus on, and you want to tell them how to effectively focus on those coping mechanisms. You have optimism. We have to be optimistic at every moment in whatever we're doing. Optimism is a good tonic. Um, we also talk about prayer. Prayer is very, very important. And then sometimes we also talk about stoicism. Stoicism, that means you have a kind of indifference, stoic indifference to whatever is happening, knowing that and having a lot of faith in God that one day everything will be well. And incidentally, these things work to a considerable extent. We must always have keep hope alive in every situation that like this that we find ourselves. Now, having said this, how do we prevent? What preventive measures can we use for infertility? Prevention of infertility. Infertility can be prevented. First of all, we have what we call primary prevention, we have secondary prevention, and we have tertiary prevention. Primary prevention is making sure that we don't fall victims to some of these predisposing factors that we had enumerated earlier. Things like if you're obese, don't go get into obesity or get into a lot of being underweight. Have sexual intercourse at the appropriate time and regularly, at the required regular intervals corresponding with period of ovulation. Of course, we have to look at the drugs, what drugs we take, eschew habit-forming drugs, drop cigarette smoking, drop alcohol, then eat appropriate prudent diet. These are all things that constitute primary prevention. Avoiding those things that will predispose to infertility. Then secondary prevention is basically investigations that we can do that will elicit the problem that is causing the infertility. And when the investigations have been carried out and the problem identified, they can now be treated. Of course, tertiary prevention is the treatment that is given as a result of what we have found out following the investigations. Now, having said this, I think we need to conclude. We've tried very much to look at several aspects of the infertility we're talking about. And in conclusion, we recall that infertility is actually a global problem. And it is a challenge that threatens marriages, especially can cause marital disharmony. And it is important that we're able to identify the causes of infertility through painstaking tracking or history taking, examination of the couples, and then carrying out the basic investigations that we need to elicit the probable cause of infertility, and then giving managed treatment as appropriate to what we have found in investigations. We should also be mindful that there are forms of assisted reproduction, in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer, surrogacy, and even adoption. These are alternatives that we can use in the management of infertility. Then, of course, we're not being unmindful of the infertility crisis, an emotional situation that can cause both psychological and physical harm or injury to not just the couple. Of the couple fertility crisis. And on that note, let me say thank you very much for taking time to listen to what I have to give you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. Before Yawande comes up, I want to really appreciate you. According to Warri language, you are the best doctor, the best in this field.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
very much.
you. Yawande, you're back now.
Okay.
Thank you, doctor. Because our products are actually those
Yes.
natural vegetables, omega-3, antioxidants,
Yeah.
and they are just freeze-dried or produced cold stabilization process made available in the absorbable form so that the body can use them for, what you call nutritional therapy. Therapeutic nutrition is really making wave all over the world. So that's what we actually recommend. And I was so happy when you touched on those sides. Thank you so much, doctor.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Yawande, are you back? Oh, it's like she's off again. Yawande. Okay, let's take some few questions. Yawande, are you back? Okay, she's not back. So we would now like to take questions. If you are here and you have any questions from all that doctor or our prof have just delivered to us, please raise your hand
Yes,
if you
I'm
want
here.
to ask. Okay, Yawande, welcome back. Go ahead, Yawande.
Yeah, ma. I'm here. I don't know. I am here. Can you hear me, ma? Yes. Okay, ma.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. A simple thank you can't do this. Even words are powerless right now to say, our appreciation for this interesting class. Thank you for the eye-opening session, and we appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for the thorough work. Great in-depth knowledge you have shared with us. Thank you for this powerful influence that you have on every listener here tonight.
Thank you very much indeed.
Question. I think we'll be able to take. Already have about 2 already. So maybe, sir, can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear
Prof,
you.
sir. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
So someone was talking about asking about that can prolapse. Can prolapse? I think she just got to know that prolapse can it cause infertility, and what can be done to that situation. I don't know if you can hear me,
Yes.
Prof. Yes, sir.
Yes, I heard you clearly. Prolapse, by which I suppose you mean uterovaginal prolapse.
Yes.
Uterovaginal prolapse, whereby the uterus and part of the vaginal wall has prolapsed. That is, they have drawn down. They are drawn down to a certain degree. Of course, you have. degrees of prolapse. Prolapse fertility, but no doubt, and to have children. Of course, you know that prolapse, most of the prolapse occurs consequent upon a woman having had a number of children and maybe is already menopausal, because it is due to the relaxation of the support of the uterus. When the supports of the uterus are lax, when they are lax, then there's tendency to prolapse, for prolapse to occur. So when, for instance, a woman is having birth and she's injudiciously pushing before the cervix is fully opened up for the baby to come, and she's pushing, it tends to stretch the uterine supports, and the uterus tends to fall. That is how prolapse can occur in a woman that is still having a children. Sometimes it may be due to assisted vaginal delivery. For instance, if you deliver using forceps or using what we call the vacuum extractor, they can also add to the stretching of the uterine supports and may eventually lead to prolapse. So on their own, they are not really a cause of infertility, but it is always desirable that prolapse, when it comes, should be managed because of the discomfort. And they know when a person has discomfort, there's a tendency for you to want the discomfort to be sorted out first before you start talking about whether to have a pregnancy or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much, sir. I believe that has answered the question. I believe so. While we'll move on, to someone wants to know if you have a hospital in Lagos. Obviously, they want to maybe check or probably come in. Maybe you'd like to put a light on that. But before then, too, there's another adjoining question that says, what's the effect of PCOS on infertility? Yes, sir.
No, I don't, which is the capital of Anambra State. And they can always call, always discuss what line of action to take. Yes. So I can always be reached over the phone.
Yes, sir. Then the effect of PCOS on infertility.
Yes, PCOS, which is a polycystic ovary syndrome, is leads to PCOS. And in PCOS, there is excessive action of estrogen. Estrogen is one of the hormones that are playing in the female. When there is excessive action of estrogen, there is a tendency for the woman not to ovulate. So women with polycystic ovary syndrome rarely ovulate, and that means it's infertility. That will result in infertility. Because if you are not ovulating, you will not achieve a pregnancy. Thank you. I hope I've answered the question. PCOS is a big topic on its own, which will be a subject matter for another time. But definitely it is a cause of infertility.
Wow. Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for the evening. We really appreciate that. So we have answers just, right in front of us already. Regarding the meeting, of course, the recording can be shared because quite a number of people have been asking, can the recording be shared? Can the recording be shared? I believe the organizers would definitely have their email, or probably you could still drop your email in the chat box so that you can have the recorded version shared with you thereafter. And if you are the person who asked if Professor has a hospital in Lagos, if you are keen, you could probably leave your phone number so that probably the organizers will also get across to you. Thank you very much, everyone, for a fantastic evening we've had here tonight. It's been a very, very interesting, very, very eye-opening one that we have already. Yes. So if there's any more question, maybe we'll be able to take just one more. But so far we have an absence of that now. Okay. Okay. I think somebody posted a question now. Let me bring it up. It's a clarification, basically, regarding the use of the supplement. Okay. Someone started using the products recently and she's now pregnant. Can she continue with these supplements, the Forever Product supplements? Yes, sir.
These are natural products, and they are good, even for the pregnancy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes, sir. So thank you very much this evening. I believe we have a lot of our leaders in-house already. We have